Most churches do not fail at reaching Muslims because Islam is too strong. They fail because their ecclesiology is too thin. They are built for events, not endurance, for campaigns and not covenant, for measurable sights, not slow faithfulness. And Muslim ministry exposes that weakness within 18 months. If you treat Muslim engagement like a fall outreach initiative, you will bury it in your own impatience. If you treat it like redemptive history, you might build something that lasts. Today, I want to argue this. Phase implementation is not a strategy trick. It is a theological necessity rooted in how God Himself works in history. And expectation management is not pessimism, it is pastoral realism. Before we talk phases, we must talk God. How does God work? Not in the burst of spectacle, not in quarterly metrics. He works covenantally, progressively, and patiently. Abraham waits decades. Israel waits centuries. The prophets preach with minimal visible fruit. Jesus spends 3 years building 12 men. The early church labors for generations before empire-wide change. God is not hurried, and when the church becomes hurried, it stops resembling Him. Muslim ministry forces us to rediscover the pace of God. If your church cannot love Muslims slowly, it does not yet understand the patience of God toward itself. Let me name what's really happening in churches of 300 to 1,000. You are large enough to attempt this. You are not large enough to absorb chaos. Maybe you're thinking, I already have too much on my plate. What if donors revolt? What if members accuse us of compromise? What if this becomes political? And what if we invest 5 years and see nothing? Those are not foolish fears. They are shepherd fears. But if they are unspoken, they will quietly sabotage every initiative you attempt. So let me manage expectations now. You may lose members. You may be misunderstood. You may see slow fruit. You may face internal tension. If that frightens you, you are thinking like a CEO protecting market share and not a shepherd guarding sheep. Here is the deeper problem. American evangelicalism is revival shaped. We expect immediate response, public decisions, visible metrics, and annual momentum. Muslim ministry is covenantal and honor-based. Trust precedes proclamation. Relationship precedes theological confrontation. Loyalty precedes identity shift. A Muslim does not merely change beliefs when he follows Christ. He risks losing family, status, and sometimes safety. If you expect revivalistic speed in an honor-shame context, you will create either false conversions or deep disappointment. So phase it, not because we lack faith, but because we understand anthropology. Now, the phases, not as strategy, but as formation. Phase 1, pastoral and theological alignment. This goes from 0 to 6 months. Before your church moves, your pulpit must settle. You must teach clearly. The image of God in Muslims, the irreconcilable differences between Islam and the gospel. Why fear is not a Christian virtue. Why love does not mean theological compromise. And you must address the Quran's denial of the crucifixion, Islam's rejection of the Trinity, and Muhammad's claim to final prophethood. Not as caricature Islam, but do not soften its contradictions either. Your people need clarity, not sentiment. Expectation to manage. No fruit yet, but this is soil preparation. Phase 2. Core leadership formation 6 to 12 months. Do not mobilize the congregation yet. Build a spine. 12 to 25 emotional, stable, teachable leaders. Train them in the Islamic worldview. Honor shame dynamics. Apostasy costs. How to share the gospel relationally. How to endure rejection without hostility. Make this clear. Most Muslims will not convert quickly. Many will never convert. Faithfulness is the metric. If you build activists, you will create explosions. If you build servants, you will build longevity. Expectation to manage. This will feel slow. This is not failure. Phase 3, congregation normalization, year 1 and 2. Now widen exposure carefully. Muslim background believer testimonies, thoughtful question-answer forums, cultural meals, sermons on Jesus and outsiders. You are lowering fear. If your church still views Muslims primarily through geopolitics, you are not ready for engagement. Separate geopolitics from gospel mission. Political anger will contaminate everything. Expectation to manage. Confusion will surface. Address it publicly, calmly, and repeatedly. Phase 4, strategic engagement pathways. This is year 2 through 4. Now create lanes, not pressure. Not everyone engages directly. Create tiers. 1, prayer mobilizers. 2, hospitality teams. ESL hosting international students. Relational evangelists, 3, and 4, specialized apologists and care leaders. Measure leading indicators. Meaningful friendships form. Conversations about Jesus initiated. Leaders sustained. Fear reduced. Conversions are lagging indicators. Expectation to manage. Some relationships will stall when Jesus becomes central, and know that this is normal. Phase 5, conversion and integration readiness. If someone comes to Christ, celebration is only beginning. Prepare your church for family rejection, social isolation, identity fracture, immigration complications, and spiritual warfare. So integration requires confidentiality structures, long-term discipleship, cultural humility inside your own church. One deeply rooted Muslim background believer in 5 years is not a failure. It's a miracle. Expectation to manage, this will be costly. Now, what is the cost that no one talks about? Let me say what most conferences won't. You may labor for 5 years and see 1 convert. And that 1 convert may struggle for years. If your definition of success is numerical growth, you will abandon this mission. But if your definition of success is Christ-like obedience, you will endure. Phase implementation is not about caution. It's about protecting your church from its own impatience. Expectation management is not pessimism. It is inoculation against disillusionment. Now, here is what's really at stake. Muslim engagement will sanctify your church. It will expose things like consumer Christianity, speed addiction, metric idolatry, cultural fear, and theological shallowness. If done properly, this is not merely outreach, it is ecclesial reformation. Your church will become more patient, more grounded, more courageous, more biblically serious, and less reactionary. Muslim ministry will mature your people even before it converts your neighbors. So, what does success actually look like? Well, maybe 5 years from now, success is not planting 5 Muslim churches. Your church no longer fears Muslims. 50 members have real friendships with Muslims. Your elders understand Islamic theology. Political rhetoric no longer dictates congregational instinct. 1 or 2 Muslim background believers are flourishing in Christ. This is cultural transformation. The final charge. Pastor, if you attempt this without phases, you will burn out your people. If you attempt this without expectation management, you will crush their faith. But if you align your church with the pace of God, if you build slowly, if you prepare them for cost, if you separate gospel mission for cultural fear, you will build a church that can love Muslims for decades. The Muslim world will not be reached by intensity. It will be reached by churches that resemble the patience of God. And that kind of church is not built in a year. It's built deliberately, phased, and with eyes wide open.